Hey, I'm Wendell, and if you've been watching the Linux channel, you're probably thinking this is turning into like the VFIO channel where we're doing hardware pass-through and we really want to run our games under, our Windows games under Linux without using Wine or something like that. I'm sorry for that. I don't mean for that to be the case. It's just that we've been working on some stuff and there's been an interesting development. Yeah, so check it out. This is sort of a teaser of things to come. This is not ready yet. This is sort of a new like a new piece of technology, a sort of a teaser thing. So if you are following, if you're not really sure what this is, if this is your first time looking at PCIe pass-through, you can check some of our older videos. And so basically what we do is we can actually run a Windows virtual machine under Linux and be able to game by giving it its own graphics card. So you have a computer that has two graphics cards, and one of the graphics cards is for the host. Sometimes you can do an iGPU like an Intel systems. And then the add-in graphics card, a secondary graphics card, is for the guest. And so Windows is the guest operating system, Linux is the host. And so you can run your games at basically bare metal speed, like basically native performance, because most games don't really use more than 4 cores anyway. So if you've got like a 10-core CPU, you can give 4 cores to your Windows virtual machine. Works really well. It's also a great way to work if you use the Adobe Suite or anything else that needs GPU acceleration. The problem is that you need a monitor that is attached to that secondary graphics card. So if you have like a 2-monitor setup, you'd have your Linux operating system on the left and your Windows operating system on the right. It's a little clunky. It's not super convenient. What if you could run Linux on both of your monitors, but you could get your Windows virtual machine either full screen or in a window with no latency and no overhead? I mean, you can do things like screen sharing with like remote desktop, but remote desktop has its limitations. You could do VNC, but VNC has compression. There's a lot of latency. The compression usually messes with the picture and it makes it really bad. And because it's a virtual machine running as a guest in your host machine, that's just unnecessarily complicated. What if you could create a block of shared memory so that the guest would render the frames on the graphics card, and those frames would be copied directly to memory, basically by hardware. I mean, that's basically a hardware operation. Direct memory access is basically something that happens in hardware these days with very little CPU overhead. And then, once you've copied the frame from the guest operating system, that frame buffer is basically displayed by the host. Well, that's exactly what Geoff at Host Fission is working on. And so I have to show you this. It's the most amazing thing ever. There is a little teaser of this here. He's GNIF on our forum, but it's Geoff, and you may recognize him because this is the guy that found the problem with Ryzen 7 and NPT. So if you're experiencing the NPT bug on Ryzen, you can now apply a patch to your kernel. It's a very simple patch. There's a guide for that on the forum, and you can have bare metal performance on Ryzen the same as you do on Intel. Now Threadripper is a different story. There's still some places that Threadripper is rough around the edges. You can fix the NPT problem, but there are other problems with the hardware reset and that kind of thing. So I really wanted you to show what he's working on, but he needs hardware, and so I'm going to plug a little bit. He's got a GoFundMe that is set up, but he's got TimeSpy and some screenshots and things like that. I've also got the software that he's been using. Me and some other members of the Level 1 community have been testing what he's doing, and he's doing it a couple of different ways. And we're going to release the software under the GPL version 2. And so my role here is really just evangelical. I mean, maybe a little bit of programming, maybe when we get into it. I'm super busy and I would love to have more time to work on this. But Geoff is working on this a lot, and it's taking a lot of time. But he also needs hardware, and he needs Threadripper hardware because we got Ryzen 7 fixed, but let's fix Threadripper while we're at it. And he's the guy that fixed the NPT tables problem with Ryzen 7. Paulo from Red Hat took the problem that he found, packaged it up, and delivered it. Now, kernel 4.15, the beta, just dropped. Probably not going to be finally released until January. It doesn't look like the patch from Paulo, the thing that fixes the thing that Geoff found, is going to be rolled into kernel 4.15. So you're going to have to patch that yourself manually for the foreseeable future. But I want to show you the hardware setup that we've got here. So I'm going to switch over to this. This is a wide shot of our demo setup. This is our crossover ultra wide. It is connected to our Linux machine. And this is our Dell 24-inch 1920 by 1200 that's running our Windows guest. And this is plugged directly into our GeForce. What's happening is there's a program that's running on our Windows guest that is basically, it's a frame buffer, and it's going into that shared memory region. So we've used QEMU, and we've made an IVH SHMEM device that is running there, and it basically is read by this program on the host. And so there's a window here on the Fedora desktop, so you can drag this around and do stuff. So this monitor could be off or unplugged. You don't necessarily need anything connected to your guest graphics cards. Now, strictly speaking, there's some rough edges there, and we're working through the rough edges because the software is not there yet. But the idea is to not even need a graphics card, a monitor hooked up to your graphics card. Now, Windows can be a little weird about that with mode setting and some other stuff, so we're working on that in all kinds of different scenarios. But check that out: memory copied from the guest to the host, and because that is basically handled in hardware, and there's no compression, there's no protocol, it's literally just a raw frame copy to copy, you're in a situation where the latency is extremely, extremely low. So if you're looking really close, you can kind of see on this frame here that the Windows machine is slightly ahead of the monitor. Yeah, we thought that might be latency. Guess what? No, that's actually a difference in latency between the monitors. The Dell monitor has a considerably lower latency than the crossover monitor. So it's about 1.5 frames. The crossover monitor is about 1.5 frames behind the Dell monitor. If you compensate for this by 1.5 frames, they're basically in sync. I'm going to use the 180 FPS high-speed camera and see if we can really nail down an exact value for what the latency is. But if you're using command line tools, like what's the latency between this copy and this copy using the high precision event timer, it's less than a millisecond. So, I mean, by the time you take into account the full frame, things like that, I don't know. But it's really exciting because there's nothing that has approached that speed with anything like that before. So that's really, really exciting. So let's take a look at some other things that I've got here. So yeah, this is just sort of a slow pan. So it's like you can see we got a YouTube video playing in the background. This is the Windows on the Linux guest, and see it's just copied from the Windows guest. So like this monitor could be off or unplugged, or you know, nothing's really going on. I don't know. It's just kind of nuts. All right, let's see what else. System internals. I think we covered the system internals, but just in case, this is a Gigabyte Aorus Gaming 7 X299. Their Trident Z, G-Skill Trident Z RGB memory. I think this is the 3600 kit, so it's running really fast. This is our i9 7900X, our Vega 56, and our GTX 1080 Ti. Now, you should keep in mind that I don't normally recommend the GTX 1080 Ti for pass-through, but I wanted to see if we could get this thing with, basically, let's call it balls-to-the-wall performance. And 1080 Ti is how you would do that. And yes, it is insanely, insanely fast. If you are going to use a GTX 1080 Ti, you are going to have code 43 issues, and you will have to basically hide the fact that you're using virtualization because the NVIDIA drivers are like, oh, you're in a virtual machine, code 47, I don't want to do that. So I hope that NVIDIA doesn't close that loophole. It's really frustrating and annoying, but yeah, that card fast and the fastest possible thing, yeah, it's basically it's okay. So this is kind of our wide shot, and you can see a little bit, you know, it's a little bit closer. You can see that it's just one frame behind, and that's really the difference in the latency of the monitor. I mean, how nuts is that? It's like, oh, this one's slightly slower than this one, and it's really down to the monitor, which is completely nuts. So let's see what else we've got. Did the overview, get the wide shot, the system internals. Yeah, shared memory. Okay, so level 1 is going to provide, right now in hand, I may be able to get more, but as of today, right now in hand, we've got a Noctua cooler that we're going to send Geoff, and we got the X399 Aorus Gaming 7 that we're going to send Geoff with a Threadripper CPU. And this is the motherboard that we're using for testing X299 gaming with RGB Fusion, and our G-Skill Trident Z memory, so like Newegg or whatever. You kind of see it's like we got the 32 gig kit, the 4x8 kit with RGB memory, because yeah, everything's RGB these days, woo! So definitely check out the thread on the forum, a little teaser of what's to come, so that you can get more information. You can see the Time Spy score and some other interesting stuff. And you should check out the fundraiser for Geoff, so that we can get him some money to basically buy stuff. Now, I have a feeling that It's going to be a little bit money and a little bit hardware donations. Maybe we can get some hardware companies on board, things like that. The software is going to be released to GPL version 2. The software is not ready yet, not ready for the general public. There's a lot of stuff that we have to clean up, and there are some unholy things that are under the covers that we're going to have to fix before it's ready for general consumption. There's a lot of things involved, like signed device drivers in Windows. That's a pain in the butt. There's some stuff that we've got to deal with on the Linux side of things. There are patches for QEMU. So when we were doing this, we've basically uncovered some bugs in the way that QEMU handles input, which is problematic. And depending on if you're using PS2 or USB emulation or the SPICE protocol or whatever, you're going to run into problems. And so we need to get all of those problems fixed. There is some traffic on the mailing lists. So like if you're in the loop, you can actually go to the mailing list and you can see some traffic from Geoff talking to the maintainers of QEMU, where some problems have been exposed with the way that input is handled. So we're still working on that. But I thought this video would be a lot of fun to be like, hey, look, the future of Passthrough. We can do headless Passthrough to where you can have your Windows system running in a window or full screen. Seamless would be hard. Seamless meaning that you hide the desktop, like seamless in the VirtualBox vernacular, or Unity mode in the VMware vernacular. We're not gonna, like, we would need so much money to do that it would be crazy. But in terms of like run your Windows machine in a window or full screen on another monitor or whatever, it's basically already working. It's just rough around the edges. I am super excited about this. I cannot wait. Please check out, if this is something you're interested in, please check out Geoff's GoFundMe, because he's put in a lot of work already, and I really want to see this thing through, and I'm going to try to support him as much as I can in his endeavor, because it's exciting. It's fun to be a part of this. It's fun to be along for the ride. And some of the people in the level 1 forum that are helping us test are like, oh my god, this is amazing, So it's really exciting. And because I live stream this, now I'm going to go to chat and see what all's going on with chat, because I haven't been paying attention to them for a while. Whew. Oh my goodness. Good lord. Dazori, hey, it's Daz Joe for the cause. Let's talk next week and see if I can't help out this guy and you on the hardware side. Best Joe. Thank you. Oh. Can we do it on a single GPU? No. Well, you could do it on a single GPU if your host has a built-in GPU, although it's not technically a single GPU. You get the built-in GPU plus the add-in GPU. All right. I'm paying attention to chat again. There's a lot here, so should be good. Level 1 Linux, what about VMware? So VMware doesn't support Unity mode anymore, and I could see somebody writing a driver for VMware that does this. Like, honestly, the VMware people are basically asleep at the helm. Otherwise, they would have already done this. Like, there is no excuse for VMware, especially if VMware Workstation is still $300 on Linux. There is zero excuse that they have not already looked into this to do this kind of thing. We're basically doing this with baling wire and duct tape. And, if we can do it, a company like VMware can do it. And that VMware has not done it is bad. Also, Oracle VirtualBox. Seamless mode with Oracle and VirtualBox is trash. It is just unadulterated trash. It has not been maintained properly, and it doesn't work. And maybe that's because Oracle. Maybe that's because nobody wants to touch the Lovecraftian nightmare that is the WDDM stuff on Windows 10. It works on Windows 7, and that's what Cubes uses. If you use Cubes OS, you can get seamless in Cubes. It's the same functionality, but Microsoft was like, you know what, the graphics stack in Windows is really awful. And the rest of the world was like, yeah, what's your point? And so they reworked it in Windows 10, and then with Windows 10, it's WDDM, and nobody has bothered trying to figure out how to do seamless. And I kind of got it working once in VirtualBox, but like the shadows on Windows, it was a mess. It was just and it was crashy, and it was terrible. And so VMware, shame on them for not being on top of this, but also Oracle with VirtualBox, they don't care. This is just not a use case. They're not going to make money on this, so they're not going to do anything with it. Sorry, didn't mean to go all ranty there. Are older NVIDIA cards like the 780 free of virtualization driver issues? I don't believe so. VMware's not interested unless they're making pounds out of it. You know, 300 pounds, I would probably, or $300 US, I would probably recommend VMware Workstation if it would do seamless mode and if it would do pass-through. But what we're looking at here is pass-through with a frame buffer driver, and if they put seamless on top of that, $300 worth $300 every day of the week. They can probably go to a subscription model and try that. They should be trying these kind of things because honestly, for VMware developers, as smart as those guys are likely to be, they could probably bang out the bulk of this functionality in, I don't know, like if you had 3 or 4 developers working on it, probably a month, maybe 2 months. And for a company, that is not a lot of investment. For you and me, it's like, oh, I need to take a couple of weeks off my job and blah blah blah, and you got other developers. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's a lot of money for an individual to afford, but it's not a lot of money for a company to afford. So the software that is coming is a driver for Windows. It's not just a driver for Windows, but we do have a driver for Windows. And the driver for Windows is really simple. It's actually not even like anything that we have to. It's literally just a shared memory driver and some software to capture a little bit of Windows driver, not a lot. What do you mean by seamless? Google Unity mode in VMware. That is the best way to explain it. So it's where you can have the native window decorations of Linux, but with Windows applications, as opposed to running all of Windows in a window. What I would love to see is passing through a second CPU on a workstation system along with the video card. That would be awesome. Well, you don't need to do that. So modern CPUs already have that functionality built in, so you just pass through as many CPUs as you need. But what's interesting is the scheduler. So if you've got a 10-core CPU, you could pass all 10 cores to a virtual machine. But when you do that, what has to happen is all of the work has to stop on all 10 CPUs, and then the guest gets all 10 CPUs. And so the context switching in that context, see there, I made a joke. Context switching in that context is a lot of overhead. So you don't want to do that. But if you say you have like 4 or 6 or 8 cores out of your 10 cores, then the scheduler will figure it out and be like, oh, well, I've got some processes running on these 2 cores on a host operating system, and then I've got some processes on the guests that are running on these cores. So like passing through a CPU, 1 CPU on a 2 CPU system, you can do that now with QEMU. You just pass it through. It basically just works. So yeah, I think that's basically it for the stream. It's the shortest stream ever. I know. I've got a lot I've got to do though. So should be good. Does anybody have any other questions before I go? Be sure to check out Geoff's. The link is in the description, but it's gofundme.com/hardware-4-amd-kvm-development. But you're gonna have to click the link in the description because that is entirely too long. What about using one GPU for multiple VMs? That would be SRIOV. We must wait on the hardware gods to bestow that upon us. It has existed in the enterprise for some time now, but us lowly plebeians do not have access to the SRIOV. So if you're on a product development board and you're thinking, hey, will consumers use SRIOV? I don't think so. Wrong. At least some small niche of your customers will use it, like us. There's dozens of us, literally dozens of us. Just got here. Did it work? So I'm not like super gamer, but there are gamers on the Level 1 forum who have been testing this, and it works well even with Twitch shooters. So in terms of like FPS, 60 frames a second, you need it to go really, really fast. This approach works, and this approach works really well with Twitch shooters. So that's why I'm so excited about this. How about Power 9? Power 9 is exciting, but nothing I can mess with right now. Would buying G Quadro for a guest help me a bit with all this? Just get get like a RX 550 or 560 or 570 or something like that. So it's the nice thing about like the Adobe. So like Adobe is so bad and so unoptimized. Like if the Adobe suite or something like that is what you're using hardware pass-through for, just any kind of GPU will help you. So you could literally get like the cheapest swill of a graphics card and pass that through to your virtual machine and use this, and all of a sudden the performance in the Adobe suite products is really good. And that's because the Adobe suite is a horribly optimized pile of poo, is the long and short of it. And so it's like, oh, I've got a GTX 1080 or like a GTX 1050. You're experiencing the Adobe suite's basically going to be the same, except in some really rare edge cases. So with this, with the frame buffer thing, you can actually have the Adobe suite under Linux. I'm going to get a lot of downvotes for that, but it's kind of true. Rick Sanchez says, I have an idea for a mouse where I can't get it in touch. Oh, you beautiful trolls. I love you all. Zerial's playing me off now. It's like, alright, so I'm Wendell, I'm signing out, and you can find me in the level 1 forums where this magical stuff is happening. Do check out the teaser of things to come, because there's screenshots in here and some other little stuff, and there's some stuff in the videos here. It's just it's an exciting time to be alive. I mean, we're probably a couple of months away from like a 1.0 release, I would say, but we may be able to release a beta version for the adventurous among you before then. It's up to Geoff. I'm just here along for the ride. I'm just here to plug his awesome work and provide a little bit of insight and guidance maybe. But the other thing is, if anybody has a name for this project, what should we call this? We need a name. Let us know and post in the forums, or I guess you could post here in the comments too, because there's not a lot of terrible commenting on the Linux channel for level 1. Knock on wood. So if you have a name for the project, that's really good. But I'm signing out, and I'll see you later. And I love you all. You all are amazing. Thank you so much. Definitely go give Geoff some money. Thank you. Take care.